The best thing is that even though it's a very strange year for all of us, having 4 positions, both boards open, and 4 positions, 4 people that had a mutual that had submitted their paperwork. So do we need to have an election? Yes, we do. Do you need to vote? Yes, you do. So keep it in mind when you get it. Don't throw it into the circular file. Look at it and vote and send it in. And that's the way this whole process works. So if you want a card in the audience, raise your hand. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Maggie Blackwell to come up and be the moderator. And Maggie is currently on the United Board, so she said she would fill any oddball questions in if she needed to. So, but I'm pretty sure that you've had all the oddballs you needed so far this year, so you're ready to do it. So Maggie, thank you so much, and thanks for my board for setting this up tonight.
Good afternoon. No fighting, okay? No fighting. I see lots of people here who have always been non-reticent about their opinions, but just save them for the cards and save them for afterwards. Okay, down here in the purple is Juanita Skillman. Then we have Cash Akakar. Then we have Manny Armendariz. They are 3 of the 4 for United. Then for third we have John Frankel, Bunny Carpenter, Annette Sable Soul, and this is James Tung. All right, so we'll start with Juanita, your opening speech.
Have to have this because we're on TV. Hi, I'm Juanita Skillman, and I'm running for a second term on the United Board. During my first term, I served as secretary and currently am president. I've served on almost all of the committees, either as a regular participant or as a fill-in when people were not able to be there. I also have served on a number of the GRF boards representing United Mutual, ones like media and communications and finance and business planning. And again, I attend almost all of the committee meetings for both GRF and United. I think it's very important to keep up with what's going on in all aspects of the village. So even though I may not be on one of the committees, I need to know what they're doing. My background is I have a BA and an MA from Western New Mexico University. I have professional certification as a certified records manager. That's similar to what a CPA is in the accounting field. And my business background is I was a high school teacher, English, drama, and speech for a number of years. When we moved to California, I went back into records and information management, and that's what I did up until I retired 5 years ago. I worked in both the public and the private sector as a records manager, and I also did consulting and teaching for people who wanted to be certified records managers. My volunteer activities, as a very active records manager, I was an officer in leadership positions on our many, basically 3 professional organizations, international professional organizations for records and information manager. I'm also a 35-year Toastmaster and have served in many of the offices for that. I'm a bus buddy, and I also serve on the Disaster Preparedness Task Force. And one of the things I'm most proud of is I'm a volunteer at our library, and I do books on wheels for shut-ins afternoons in the library. Why do I want to be on it again? It is a thankless task, and it takes many, many hours to be a volunteer board member. And I'm sure you all know we get no compensation for this. But I do get a sense of being able to give back to the community and to share my expertise in volunteer boards. And so that's why I'm running for a second term.
Thank you, Juanita. Cash Akrakar.
Hello friends, my name is Cash Akrakar, just call me Cash. I came here in 2016, and 8 out of my 14 months I've been on United Board because of probably they like me, maybe I'm handsome, I don't know. But background wise, I have 3 master's degrees in engineering, in business administration and technology. I have volunteered on Rehab Institute of Southern California for almost 30 years. I became the president of my homeowner association, Anaheim Hills, when 3 homes slid down, and nobody wanted to do anything. I said, now's the time to act. And got the mayor of the city of Anaheim involved, the FEMA involved, and we got the street stabilized, and the black mark was removed, partially removed, but in my career I accomplished that. I came here, I've been in the United States for almost 50 years. It'll be next week that I'll be 50 years in the country. What I want to accomplish, volunteer-wise in the community, I also do Meals on Wheels once a week, and I volunteer at the city desk for once a month. And I get a lot of thank yous in the thankless job because whatever needs to be done, I do. Okay. I'm a hard worker, and my goal is to make our community get what we really deserve. We don't have the recognition internationally or as much as we would love to. I would love to have it because this is my last home, and we deserve it. What I want to do is make our property taxes apply for some of our infrastructure, and instead of going down that we get like 8/10 of 1 cent of our tax dollars go back to the city for us. I need your support, not just for United, but I want to go later on to JRF and then go into the city council to accomplish the goal, because the goal I've set is to bring $100 million to our community in the next 6 years. And I'll do my best to do that because I want to make our community a one big happy family. There are a lot of discrepancies, but they have to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Cash. Manny Armandaris.
Thank you, Maggie. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure for me to be here in front of you today. I'm going to break down my presentation into 3 segments. The first one, I'll tell you about my education. The second one, my work experience. And the third one, why I want to become a director and my mission statement. First of all, I'm a graduate of UCLA. I obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration with a major in accounting. I'm a retired California CPA, having worked over 14 years with the CPA firm of Coopers & Lybrand. As far as my experience, besides public accounting, by the way, I was also offered a partnership with a firm, but I decided that I preferred to try industry. So my first job in industry was as the Director of Finance for the Irvine Company. I was also appointed the Treasurer of the Irvine Ranch Water District. I worked for many major corporations here in Orange County, all dealing with real estate development, whether it was single-family homes, co-ops, office buildings, commercial properties. And in these roles, My position was generally either the Vice President of Finance or Vice President Controller, but I was the Chief Financial and Accounting Officer for these different entities. Another individual and company I worked for was Arnell Development, which is owned by George Argyris, probably included in the 5 wealthiest billionaires in Orange County. And I also, for several companies besides being the Chief Financial and Accounting Officer, I supervised property management, so I've had property management experience. That tells you about my education and my work experience. So the last item is my mission statement, and that is something that I'm very, very passionate about. I realize that all of us here are already elected to the board because there's 4 openings and there's 4 people volunteering to become directors. However, I'm asking for your vote because that will show me that you support my thinking. And my thinking is this: regardless of what we've been able to accomplish, I think school is still out as to whether VMS is doing a better job than PCM. I hope they are. But I think we need to inquire into a lot of different areas because there's no doubt in my mind, we have a fine community here. We have a lot of amenities that we can enjoy. However, that still doesn't eliminate the fact that we have a lot of deficiencies, not only in the quality of the service we get, but in how our money is spent.
Thank you.
That's why I'm asking for your support.
Thank you, Manny. Okay, I'll just say a word for Reza Bastani, who is waiting for workmen to finish in his unit so he can come. He has a large engineering background. He has participated in the creation of several developments of all kinds all over the world. So his engineering knowledge is phenomenal, and his world experience is very interesting. Okay, John Frankel III.
Hello, my name is John Frankel. I've lived here in Laguna Woods for 2 years and 4 months. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from UC Berkeley and graduated in 1960 and a degree in Project Management from Northeastern University. I'm a registered civil engineer in the state of California and my registration is current. I'm a retired Navy Civil Engineer, Corps Office with 20 years active duty. And then I went to work for the Austin Company, a large design and build construction firm, and spent 20 years with them. I've been on the board now for 1 year and 8 months, and I'm on 14 committees, including M&C, Architectural Control, Landscape, Energy, Water Conservation. I chair 2 task forces, dry rot and parking. Oh, I skipped a couple things up here. I spent 12 years as Architectural Review Committee when I lived in Rancho Santa Margarita. They have the largest homeowners association here in Southern California, and of minor interest. I'm a 6th generation native Californian. I'm a Garado. They lived in Whittier, California. I chaired the dry rot and parking task force, and I'm involved in Laguna Woods traffic hearings. I became involved in the Third Mutual shortly after moving to Laguna Woods based on my engineering and project management experience. Third Mutual's project focus has been and will continue to be my primary focus. My focus as a member of the Third Laguna Woods Mutual is based on continued contribution as a team member to our very care-driven board. Our board members put forth a terrific amount of energy to assist our residents in every possible regard, investing many hours each week in an effort to optimize our members' residential experience. The coordination of our committee effort with VMS High staff is critical to the board's success, and it's with great pride that I can sit here with an honest evaluation and sincerely promise we have achieved and will continue to achieve strong positive results for our Third Mutual. I believe each of the board members strongly believe and practice in the adage, service above self. In my opinion, and I believe my board colleagues will agree, it's beneficial to have a registered professional engineer as an active participant in the many third engineering projects that are addressed by the board. The VMSI staff is highly competent and has a terrific leadership. Nevertheless, the Third Board has a mandate to make every effort to optimize the VMSI effort. as it impacts the third mutual, and I promise my focus will continue to be in that direction. A few final comments about our third mutual board. The third mutual board has a remarkable team effort based on great mutual respect for each other. We have no standalone members that put forth a take or lead or my way is the highway attitude. There is no practice of prevarication. And finally, divisiveness is anathema to the third board.
Thank you, John. Bunny Carpenter.
My name is Bunny Carpenter, and I'm running for re-election as a director of Third Mutual. I moved to Laguna Woods Village 7 years ago because it was affordable and offered amenities that I enjoy. I ran for the board in 2014 because I was concerned with the unreasonable rising dues and poor management of our community. In the past 3 years, our board was able to achieve financially and we're able to drop the assessments $2.50 per man per month. And meanwhile, the total reserves increased 11.7 million with a 2.4 million spending on cost savings solar projects. During that time, Third Mutual transitioned to a new management company, and I chaired the task force on purchasing, which led to enhancing purchasing best practice, price analysis, and documentation formats. I am the vice chair of the landscaping committee and also serve on communications, M&C, compliance, and executive committees. My education is in business and purchasing. I have a BA degree in business administration and a purchasing management certificate from UCLA. I took classes in government contracting, real estate, and property management. And I actually managed 3 shopping centers before I became a buyer. I have brought experience and skills to this community serving on Third Board. While serving on Third Board, I was instrumental in developing standard terms and conditions for contracts and developing a purchasing policy that is used by GRF, United, and Third. Initially, I had to review the entire purchasing process and the contracts, and thus I chaired the RFP study group. I understand the needs of our village, and as a board member, I have been instrumental in helping our board oversee more fully the multi-million dollars we spend in contracts and to provide the services which enable our community to survive and flourish.
Thank you, Bunny. Annette Sable Soul.
Hello. Hello. My husband John and I have lived in Laguna Woods Village since 2005. He is an avid golfer who serves on the board of the Laguna Woods Men's Golf Club. He is very supportive of me serving on the Third Board. On I have a master's degree in public administration and a Bachelor of Science in business. On December 30th, 2016, I retired from the United States Department of Justice, Office of the United States Trustee Program, where I worked for over 21 plus years. The last 10 years, I served as the Regional Administrative Officer, covering 71 employees in 5 offices located in Southern California. For 2 years, I covered 2 regions, serving 142 employees in 12 offices throughout California and Nevada, where I oversaw operations, budgets, facilities, procurement, human resources, security, training, and travel. Prior, I worked as a bankruptcy auditor of Chapter 11s and performed panel trustee oversight audits. The board has achieved a unique balance of respect and admiration for each other. As many of you are aware, prior boards never achieved this balance. The 4 of us are running again to continue the good work the Third Board is doing. Let's keep the momentum going. As a director, I was involved with the interviewing and hiring of our current legal counsel. I have attended numerous meetings and talked to residents to get a better understanding of your needs and priorities. You've told me and I've listened to your concerns. One example is security and the use of drones in the village. This policy was revised first and third, then GRF and United. Now only VMS Security or their assignees may fly drones in the village. Currently serving on the Finance, Maintenance and Construction, Architectural Control and Standards Committees, along with being a member of the Parking Task Force and chair of the Garden Villa Golf Cart Parking Task Force. I will work towards improving security, inter-board cooperation, and diverse cultural awareness. I want to keep the momentum going. A cooperative yet disciplined approach is required in working with the boards and VMS to strive for the continuous improvement, repair, and maintenance of our homes. I will continue to strive for the blending of different generations, genders, and cultures to bring energy and fresh perspective to Laguna Woods Village. I am dedicated to the board and to this community. I will continue to focus on the future of Laguna Woods Village. Please vote and vote for me, Annette. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. James Tung, who looks unusual today.
Time's up. Okay.
Thank you, James.
All right, I want you all to close your eyes. I am a native of China. I obtained a BS in geology at National Taiwan University and then came to the United States where I received an MS in geology at the University of Tennessee and a PhD in geophysics from the University of Southern California. From 1975 to 2002, I worked as an oil and gas exploration geophysicist for Shell and Aramco at sites in the US and Saudi Arabia. My wife and I moved to Laguna Woods Village in 2012. We came from a much smaller California HOA where I had served on their board for 8 years. Here, I am a member of several clubs and use our many different facilities with great enjoyment. I was elected to the third board in 2014, where I am first vice president and chair of the Landscape and Water Conservation Committees. We are an aging community with pressing needs to update the infrastructure of our homes. Our financial priority should be to care for our homes, yet we are burdened with expenditures for amenities rather than on our mutual's pressing needs. As a geologist by training, when faced with an issue, I approach it systematically, gathering information from all available sources. As a board member, I have tackled our water conservation in this way, our water consumption in this way, with the goal of reducing our seriously high water usage and thereby conserving this scant resource. As part of this effort, I review our bills, identify problem areas, notify the residents involved, and work with them to cut their consumption. These efforts have resulted in the total saving of about $600,000 over the years. Most problems facing Third Mutual can be solved systematically. Over the next 3 years as a board member, I look forward to working with my fellow board members to continue our work of updating and improving our homes and community. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
James Tung.
I think we should give a hand to all these qualified people. All right, this is Barbara Marsh, who is going to draw some questions for you. I'm sorry, Jim. Out of the basket, and you will have 3 minutes to answer. You can sit right where James is.
I'm not James.
Okay, the first question, we'll start with Annette. We'll start from this side. Do you know what your assessments cover?
Yes, I do. Basically, they cover,
Use the mic, please.
Assessments cover budgeted items for operations and insurance of the 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual, and maintenance and operations and repair of GRF amenities. Approximately $200 monthly goes to GRF. I believe that when you're formulating a budget, it should be approached each year based upon our needs, not on prior year funding.
Thank you. Bunny?
I have the same answer.
Oh, okay. Do you know what your assessments cover? You agree? Okay.
Absolutely.
John Franco? Do you know what your assessments cover?
They cover everything on your manor up to the paint on the inside of the manor. They cover the landscaping. They cover the community, the common area, energy, lights. We have some significant lighting issues based on lights having some failure with SCE. We're buying all the light poles. So the assessments, you are responsible for the inside of your house, but we take care of the roofs and all other issues associated with your condo.
Thank you. Manny Amendares, do you know what your assessments cover?
Yes, I do. I agree with what's been presented so far, but I think I can describe it probably a little more accurately so that people can understand it. Basically, there's 3 categories to your monthly assessment. The first one, and which constitutes your largest monthly charge, is an estimated amount that's supposed to provide for the payment that's necessary to cover all of the operating expenses for your manor, whether it applies to painting, roof, landscape maintenance, whatever. The second part, and that's your biggest part of your assessment. The second part of your assessment is the amount that you pay every month to support GRF. And GRF is the owner of basically all the common facilities that you get to enjoy, such as the golf course, the gym, tennis courts, and so on. The third one, and really it's the only one that I have to laugh, the other 2 you can't really control. The only control you have is to appoint good directors that are watching out for your money. The third category, which is generally the smallest, is your property tax. Those 3 components make up your monthly assessment. Now, what I've discovered, because I'm a beneficiary of this, is that a lot of people don't realize how Prop 13, Prop 50, and Prop 90 work. And I made residents aware of it, and that is that under that proposition, there is a cap on your assessed valuations, unless you sell the property. And that cap started way back in like 1978, I think it was. Your assessed valuation can only go up by the amount of any improvement you made, limited to 2% increase. Your property taxes are also limited to 1% of the assessed valuation plus bonded indebtedness. So the benefit I'm talking about is Prop 50 and 90. If you sell a property, the principal residence, within a 1 to 2 year period, replace that with another residence, and you don't spend more than what you sold that first residence for, you can then file an application to transfer that old property tax base, which I did. My old property I sold for far more than what I paid for. My property tax assessed valuation was only $90,000. That's come over. Right now, nobody wants to hear this, I'm sure this on the board. I'm having a little discussion with VMS because I received my refund already for my overassessment up through June 30th of 2017. However, every month, like July, like August, I'm paying at the higher assessed value.
Thank you, Manny.
So I go back and said, I want a refund.
Thank you,
I'm going to have
Manny.
to fight with him to get that refund. I think there's other
Thank
people that
you,
are entitled to the
Manny.
same thing. So I'm just trying to
All
find
right,
the things you need to know.
Cash, do you know what your assessments cover?
Very interesting question. Some of the things that were not made, of course, goes to all the maintenance and upkeep of our facilities, property taxes, but we also get the benefit of social services office, which is included. We have a huge area to cover, and we have expenses, all those come through that. Property taxes, I'm paying property taxes on the sale price of my unit, so I know I'm paying way more property taxes than some of you, because mine was at 90,000. Generally, our coverage, our assessment has two portions. One is fixed and one is for your property tax. The fixed portion covers all the maintenance, repairs inside in the co-ops for everything, even included in some of the interior work, if you have not changed things around. Our sewer systems, our solar lights, everything comes in that. Our street light maintenance is paid by the city. Most of you may not know that, but that's one thing they pay. So that's about it. I think in general, we get the benefit, and our association assessments are only like $570. If you go outside, some of the condominiums charge more than $400 a month just for one swimming pool and maybe one clubhouse. So we are doing really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Cash. Juanita, do you know what your assessments cover?
I certainly do. They haven't left me much to say, have they? I think the main thing that we need to get across to people is, especially where assessments are concerned, there's a real difference between a co-op and a condo. And when I hear people saying my assessment's this, my assessment's this, and they don't quite understand why one is higher than the other, etc. We have a base assessment. It was $557 in a co-op this year. And then on top of that is your property taxes, and that's a very big variable. The approximately $200 goes to GRF for all the wonderful things that we take advantage of, including our security, social services, as Cash mentioned, the standard things like landscape and maintenance, and we do so much more of that in United because we are a co-op, and we don't own the units. The mutual owns the units, and so they try to take very good care of it because they are the landlords, and the people who live in United basically are tenants on 3-year recurring leases, and the bulk of the burden then falls to the mutual, and our operational costs are a good portion of our assessments every month.
Thank you, Juanita. Okay, question 2. If a member has a unique problem and they come to you, how would you handle it? John Franco.
The first criteria, and one that really makes a difference for all board members, is a 4-letter word. We have to care. We listen. And we're available. We get emails. We show empathy, and I think that's extremely important. And then, of course, we follow up. We refer the resident to the appropriate people on the VMS staff. And Lori Moss, for example, is really very sensitive in that regard. And you can darn well bet that we follow up. If not, we're doing our job. We're not doing our job. We don't care.
Thank you, John. Manny, if a member has a unique problem and they come to you, how would you handle it?
I agree with everything that the speaker just said. But in addition to that, besides listening and giving empathy and all that, I would try to really get down to what the problem is. It could be that it's something that the resident or owner of the property just needs to solve for himself. Or it could be something that definitely he should turn either to the board or to one of the committees to solve his problem. So that's the only distinction I would make between the comments that you just heard and mine. Is I think you have to determine right off the bat, really, is it something that he needs to solve for himself, or is it something that is being caused by how the community is managed, or something that the board should do about? Thank you.
Thank you. Bunny, if a member has a unique problem and they come to you, how would you handle it?
Well, my first question would be, what is the problem? Because many times the residents really don't know how to go about solving the problem. They are not even aware that they can call resident services and get a response. So I'd like to direct them to be able to solve the problem and then follow up with them to see that the problem was solved.
Thank you. Cash, if a member has a unique problem and they come to you, how would you handle it?
Each problem needs to be understood properly. That's what I'll do first. I will understand what he's talking about, what the problem is, and then try to see what the proper solution is. I will listen to him and then tell him I'll come back to you with the right answer or correct solution for his situation. For instance, there was one incident that somebody thought caregivers were trying to harass one of the residents. And for something like that, I said, we need some help from the social service. So I went myself to the social service department and have them follow it up and find out what the problem was. Another situation, like somebody was parking in the wrong place and some neighbor complained. Simple solution, it was to see if these two guys can think properly and resolve the situation. And that's what I do. I will listen, I'm empathetic with the person asking the problem, has the problem, and try to resolve it to the best of my abilities and try to find the right help wherever it is available and make a peaceful solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Cash. Annette, if a member has a unique problem and they come to you, how would you handle it?
Well, I believe it depends upon the problem. First, I would listen. Some folks just need direction to the right person to handle the situation. Others need follow-up. I want to ensure that they're getting the help they're asking for. And I always ask them to repeat what I said to make sure they understand it. Now, if it's something like somebody's standing on their last hair and it's an emergency and they've gone everywhere and they haven't gotten any result, I'll pull out my smartphone, I'll hit record, and I'll ask them to give me their name, their manor number, their cell phone, or their email address, and then I ask them to state the problem so I can go home and research it and I can call them back.
Thank you. Juanita, if a member has a unique problem and they come to you, how would you handle it?
Well, we have a unique system in United, and it's called our Resident Advisory Committee. And that is where people can come and talk at length. It's not a 3-minute time limit like we have in our board meetings. And they can explain, and they can bring in witnesses or neighbors or other people with the same problems. And we don't solve the problems for them, but we advise them on how they can get the help that they need. I have a marvelous committee there of some very long-time residents of the village that know the ins and the outs, and we know the people to send them to get it done. Listening, I think, is the prime thing. Most people just want to be heard. They want you to understand they have a problem. Sometimes it's a neighbor-to-neighbor dispute, and we have to turn it over to compliance because we can't mediate. We cannot just take one side over the other. So just the committee itself, the listening and trying to direct them to the correct place within our staff to implement it is how I would handle it.
Thank you. Barbara, time to draw a new question.
Gosh, I got so interested.
Okay, Annette, what is your understanding of the rental policy in your mutual?
The rental policy in our mutual is there's no short-term rentals, less than 60 days, and the lessees have to be renewed annually, and there has to be a background and credit check reports, and that has to be performed once every 5 years.
Thank you. Bunny, what is your understanding of the rental policy in your mutual?
Well, I'll add to what Annette says. Some of the things have changed in our
You
process,
want to pull that closer?
and
That's it, girl.
And one of the things that we changed in the process is that now the board is involved in the rentals and being able to approve them, whereas the staff did it before. So we are trying to monitor the people that are coming into our community again. And one of the biggest things, rentals policy came before our compliance, and one of the biggest issues was short-term rentals. People were actually renting, with Airbnb overnight, come vacation, in beachfront property. That was the one that got me. Did this person even know what they were getting, So it's the rental policy is actually, and the short-term rentals is now coming under compliance, and we are monitoring the short-term rentals. We're asking people to come to hearings, and they're being fined.
Thank you. John, what is your understanding of the rental policy in your mutual?
All of the items of my understanding have been mentioned. Obviously, our policy is a 60-day policy with no short-term renters. It's interesting that the issue of short-term renters has come to the forefront because of the Airbnb situation, and we actually have met have had to judge some issues on compliance in the executive hearing with the offenders. So rental policy is a major issue here in Laguna Woods Village, and we watch it very, very, very carefully.
Thank you. Manny, what is your understanding of the rental policy in your mutual?
The rental policy in United Mutual is that, let me just give you the background remark, and that's that as an owner in United Mutual, you own a share in the corporation, and when you purchase that, you then have the right to occupy a unit, and that would be under a lease agreement, and that's automatically renews every 3 years. So if you choose to rent your unit out, then you do it under what is called a sublease, because you're the original lessee. So the policy is that the sublease cannot be less than 90 days and no more than 1 year. So that's the policy that I understand by looking at the rules and regulations.
Thank you. Cash, what is your understanding of the rental policy in your mutual?
When someone purchases a share in United Co-op, he or she cannot sublease for first 12 months. After that, he's allowed or she is allowed to sublease to anybody no less than 90 days and no more than 1 year at a time, if I'm mistaken not. Also, the sublease person must have a proper credit report and financial stability, and all the amenities have to be transferred to the sublessee. Like the garage has to be empty, not the original lease owner cannot have his vehicles in the garage, in the carports. In general, it's like the sublessee becomes the resident leaseholder, but not quite. And he is still responsible, the main leaseholder is still responsible if something goes wrong as of because of the sublet person, he is fully responsible for that. Those are some of the things our rental policies involve. Thank you.
Thank you. Juanita, what is your understanding of the rental policy in your mutual?
We have none. We do not rent anything in United. We do have, as was mentioned, subleases because each and every one of us is a lessee. And there are restrictions on the subleases, as Cash mentioned, you can't do it for the first year. We are an owner-occupied community, and we fight very much to do that. We have kept our subleases down to 8% or low, which is a third of what Third has, which makes us much more beneficial to the people that are moving in. They are not moving into a resort or a hotel where people are going to be coming and going and they don't know who their neighbors are going to be. We also have restrictions. You cannot rent part of your unit. You cannot rent out a room. You cannot rent just portions of your unit. The subless is for the whole unit, including the carport. Now, we do have some people who don't use their carport anymore. They don't drive anymore. Maybe they don't have a golf cart or something. They use our wonderful bus system. Well, they then can apply and can lease out their carport to somebody else who needs who has extra cars. But that's the only kind of rental that we have in United.
Thank you. Juanita, what would you do if you disagree with the vote of your board?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you, Maggie. We have 11 people on all of our boards. We do not expect little soldiers that follow in line and everybody agrees all the time with what everybody does. We have some very animated discussions. We try to look at all sides. People sometimes think we're fixated on one side or another. No, we listen. We try to weigh what is best for the community. And once a board makes a decision, then it is my responsibility as a member of that board to support that decision. Now, there are times when it can be brought up again for another vote, and if I feel strongly about it, I could do it, but I can't do anything by myself. I am a member of a team, a member of a group, and it's my responsibility to be a member of that group.
Thank you. Cash, what would you do if you disagree with the vote of your board?
That is an interesting question, and I have a little few things to add to what Juanita said. Basically, once the decision is made, it is a decision of all the 11 board members. You, the board, you go by it, you follow it, because that is what has been determined by the committee as a whole that is supposed to be making that decision, and that is the decision that has to be moved forward. It's just like when we get a new president. between Democratic and Republican parties, the Democrats need to support Republican president, and Republicans have to do the same.
Thank you, Cash. Manny, what would you do if you disagree with the vote of your board?
Well, first of all, if it was an issue I felt strongly about, and I'm generally pretty passionate about a lot of things, I'd be very disappointed, but I would have to live with it. I would have to go on. Because we are a group of members of this board that are trying to work together, and we're all trying to do what's best for all of the residents. It may not always turn out that way. I know oftentimes I speak to fellow residents, and they're not happy with certain decisions that were made. Unfortunately, that's the management organization that we live under, and we just have to do the best we can. And I would say this, that I know that if I feel that strongly about an issue, I will do everything in my power to sell the other board members on my views and why I feel a certain decision is best for the community as well as the board members. So that's how I would handle that.
Thank you. John, what would you do if you disagree with the vote of your board?
Our third board has no hesitancy to offer their opinions on just about every issue, and we do very, very strongly discuss all of the issues. It's our responsibility as a board member to do so. However, we have an obligation as a board member to follow the final vote. There's no room for people to stand alone on this board, and we take pride in that. We take pride in the fact that we're a team.
Thank you. Bunny, what would you do if you disagree with the vote of your board?
Well, like John says, we do have a very diversified board with a lot of opinions. We have the opportunity to express those opinions, and then we take a vote. And when we take a vote, it is our responsibility and our loyalty to our corporate members that we support that vote. And that's, my words are not coming out right, as you can tell, but the loyalty is very important. We have loyalty to our board, and we also have a responsibility to our community to respect the decisions of the board.
Thank you. Annette, what would you do if you disagree with the vote of your board?
Well, usually I grit my teeth, and then when a board is working together, there is respect for all opinions. I can believe what I want to believe, but I cannot try to obstruct the wishes of my board. As a member of the board, my first obligation, I believe, is loyalty to the corporate board position that I serve on, that duty of loyalty, that duty of care. You know, we're all separate corporations, but it's first to the board I serve on, then the fiduciary responsibility to the members. And yes, we are obligated to support, I believe, what the board votes on.
Thank you. Now, Joan has or is it, are you Mr. Tung or are you Ms. Newman? Okay, this is Joan Newman. She has selected a question.
From the audience.
Okay, let's see. Manny. A person under the age of 55 inheriting a unit in a trust. Please explain the guidelines.
Repeat that, please.
A person under the age of 55 inherits the unit in a trust. Please explain the guidelines.
That question wasn't in
These are from the audience.
residents? Oh, from the audience? Oh, okay.
I've read the regulations on this, but my memory might be a little bit foggy, so please allow that. My understanding that if a person is under the age of 55 and he inherits under a trust, that I believe that since he can't reside in the residence, that he's obligated to sell that property. But you know, I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I'd look that one up, definitely.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to answer this question? John. A person under the age of 55 inherits a unit in a trust. Please explain the guidelines.
It's important for a board member to know what he doesn't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But that's why we have the experts on our in residency and VMSI. And you don't jump to answers on questions that you don't know the answer to. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I'm sure it's in our rules and regulations, so it could be looked up pretty quickly.
Any other, Cash?
55 and younger person cannot live here. If he inherits this trust, in the trust, if the person getting it is less than 55 years old, say he's 30 years old, he cannot move in there and he cannot rent for the first, for sublease for the first year in the co-op end. So he has the option to keep on paying the dues for the first year and then rent after that, or just turn around and sell it. That's it. And he doesn't, need to hold on to it until he becomes 55. It's his choice. Yeah.
Thank you, Cash. Juanita?
Thank you, Maggie. This is, of course, a very hot issue and has been when we redid our bylaws. We have to remember that what we own is a right to occupy. In a co-op, in United, we do not own the asset. We do not own the unit. And it can be part of a trust, and they can, if they are 55 or older, they can apply for membership. And if they are a member with an occupancy agreement, then they have the right to sublease it. If they are not 55, they cannot live in the community, with only a couple of exceptions. One of them being if you are a spouse or registered co-occupant and are on the membership certificate with the age qualified person, you're allowed to continue to live here. But for the most part, in order to keep our legal restriction as a 55 senior community, if we keep letting people in who are not 55, we will lose that designation. And it's very important to be in our senior community that we keep that age limit. We don't take their asset. That asset is still theirs, but they have to sell it.
Thank you. Annette?
In a co-op, it's a little different because the person does own it. So if you're under 55 and it comes through you in a trust, first of all, it comes in a condo. It's acquired. The title is in a trust. You can go ahead and lease it, I believe. You can sell it. And the good news is VMS has a trust person on staff that they pay to basically look into these matters and before they're brought to us. And then if there is something that is brought to us, we basically, if you have questions about it, we bring it to our attorney.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Bunny, never mind. This is for United. Okay. Cash, does a buyer in United Mutual need earned income?
United restriction on the income of the stock purchaser is, he has to have a minimum of 36,000 a year income, earned or not, doesn't matter. Mine comes from Social Security, so does most of the people, but some of the people may still be working. Some doctors I know work and they earned income. So that restriction applies as long as they make 36,000 minimum a year. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Anyone else want to answer? Juanita?
Again, there are some exceptions to that rule. If, and the key word there is earned. Do we count 401k payments and annuities and those kinds of things, retirement income, as earned income as opposed to when you were working and earning it? We do have minimum financial requirements, but if the right to occupancy is bought with a guarantor, because the person buying that right to occupancy does not have the 36,000, we still require that they have a minimum, which is 24,000. That is poverty level, people. Basic Social Security, and they consider it a poverty level. But we want to make sure that the people that are living here not just can buy their right to occupancy and to live in our manors, but can afford to buy food, pay electricity, actually live in the unit. Now, in United, for instance, because we, as United Mutual, own the units, we do not allow Section 8s in here. The landlord has to agree to Section 8, which is really low poverty area. We don't do that. We don't have any, so we don't have Section 8s in United. We do not allow that. So we do have financial requirements. If people are going to live here, we want them to be able to live here independently and not be a burden to the community.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. This card says they have many complaints about landscaping. I don't see James here. Okay. What is the staffing, the actual number of workers? It seems lacking staff is the issue. Anyone want that? Okay.
Since I'm chair, vice chair. of
Bunny,
landscape.
Vice Chair of Landscape.
I think we have a lot of problems in landscaping. I just know that they're working on it, and I know that staff is on top of it. I don't have the exact figures as to how many need to be, how many positions need to be filled. I think there was 11 that was filled recently, wasn't it? And there was still some additional, off the top of my head, maybe 8 or something that had to be filled. And this was one of the reasons why we increased our budget for employment this year. But believe me, we are really trying to work with landscaping. Some of the things that is not going to be happening in the future is taking off people to do special projects, and then that changes the routine schedule and makes everything get behind. And so we talked with Brad about that, and he said, you know, with the new additional people, and that we wouldn't be doing that anymore. One of the issues that we're trying to make people aware of, our members aware of, is the fact that the rain was wonderful. And we really wanted the rain, but it also caused extreme overgrowth in our community. I mean, we had trees that, because of the dryness, and then all of a sudden, you know, we have a heavy rain. So I think there was almost 100 trees in the community that had to be taken out because of the rain. So he says my time is up.
Thank you. Anyone else want to, Juanita?
A little history. Landscaping, of course, has been a major part of this community since it was developed. And when VMS came on board, there were a number of people who had been in our landscape department for 25, 35, some of them almost 40 years. They chose to retire. 50 years, okay. They chose to retire. And so they have been filled, as we can get them, with younger people who may not have as much history in the community as the people who retired, where it was all up here, and they knew right away. We have another thing that has been this year, and that is we have employed a service called Arbor Pro, and they have cataloged every single tree, over 33,000 trees, so that now we can do the cutting by species when they need to have it. We're not just going through and chopping all of these in a cul-de-sac, etc. So we're being a lot smarter about the landscaping. Yes, we had rain, but we also know that we live in a drought community. We live in an area that normally does not get that much rain. And so we are taking in turf removal, and we are putting in drought-resistant plants, and we are putting in drip watering systems that we haven't had before. So a lot is being done, and we certainly are trying to catch up. We also have Saturday. People are working on Saturdays now as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? Annette?
Basically, too, we had to make sure that we took the landscapers and we put them on the slopes in order to keep the Orange County Fire Marshal happy. Because after the rains, the accelerated growth on those slopes became problematic. Brad now regrets that perhaps he focused too much on that. But I was a member of the Landscape Committee in January and February when the winds and rains taxed our community. We had the good fortune of not having anyone hurt or more damage to our manors. VMS landscaping, maintenance, and security all increased manpower. They worked weekends, they answered the phones, they attended to the trees down, the drains clogged, the electrical outages, and the roof leaks. Lots of residents cooperated by doing what they could to assist or not going out in the weather due to the slick roads and other hazards in order to avoid being out in the worst weather days. I know for myself, I had a trip and I canceled it because the third landscape committee then and the board expedited approvals for VMS landscaping to remove extraordinarily large hazardous trees in between these two storms. And it's because of everyone's commitment to service that the third did not have considerably more damage to manors.
Thank you. John?
Bunny is correct. We do have 11 vacancies. We also have a half a dozen folks out on medical leave, and so we are short-staffed. We're working really hard to fill that. Kurt Rom's doing a great job as a director of the landscape. He's got Bob and he's got Dennis Pratt and just a couple of great supervisory staff. In furtherance of what Juanita said regarding Arbor Pro, yes, the census has been completed of all the trees, and now we need to look at the tree trimming cycle. And there's a tool in Arbor Pro that will allow us to optimize that cycle based on species. So I have talked to the landscape folks, and as soon as they're able, and they're still maybe a month or 2 or 3 away from the completing the Arbor Pro tool, that we hope to, we're sure we can optimize the tree trimming cycle.
Thank you. Okay, Manny?
I know I'm talking to a lot of residents that the landscape maintenance quality is a major concern. And based on what Juanita said and the members of the Third Mutual, we do have problems in this area. But my suggestion would be, and hopefully I can get on that committee, is I do believe that the landscape committee, a member of it, should get more involved with the head of the landscape department for VMS. Because the only way the quality is going to improve is is if somebody on this board gets active with them and pushes them, because what's lacking is equality. And what I hear is we're short on staff, we had more rain, whatever, it doesn't matter. If this gardener was the one who was taking care of your single-family home, you would have fired him and gotten somebody else. We don't have that choice. The choice we do have, though, is to get sufficiently involved so that we work with what we have. And what I'm suggesting here is that we get involved with the Department of that service and walk these places with them and show them where it's deficient. If I was to show you my unit, people walk by and admire my unit because I've done a lot of work myself to beautify it. And I can honestly tell you, I'm really proud of my unit. But it takes work, it takes effort. So that's what we need. We need more involvement by the board, and we need better trained employees, okay, and more supervision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What percent of assessments is for payroll? Okay, Annette, give it a go.
Let me try to answer that question.
Okay, I believe it's over 50%.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's another number.
That's another number I have a big passion about. Our funds that go to all the mutuals are over $110 million. The biggest single expense item is payroll and payroll-related costs.
Sorry, Manny, you're out of order, son.
Okay, Annette, thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments? Nanny? Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. If there are duplicate questions, we're not. Okay, this is a story, okay? So there will be a question in it. Over the years, there has been a history of many dollars lost for various reasons. This is someone's opinion, of course. What kind of understanding of financial planning do you have? Okay, Annette?
I was a bankruptcy auditor of 511 classification, which means you have to have a certain amount of accounting and basically review of Chapter 7s and 11, so I have a financial background. I do have a certificate in personal financial planning from UCI, and I've managed budgets for 2 regions, large numbers, so I feel very qualified to look at our numbers.
Thank you. Anyone else? Manny?
I served on the audit committee, and that was my first involvement with the administration here. I volunteered in December, and I served on it until April. I'm not saying that anything dishonest or misuse of funds occurs, but I do know from my asking very probing questions about the financial statements, about certain expenditures, about how their accounting is done. I did not get adequate answers. These are areas that definitely need to be looked into. The detailed information we get on our financials doesn't tell you the full story. I have difficulty reading those financials, and I'm a trained, experienced CPA. So this area needs a lot of work. Okay? That's my message.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
By the way, I was fired from the audit committee.
Really?
All right. That was an unsolicited comment. Thank you. Question is, what was your board's greatest success this year? Annette?
I think the third greatest success this year was in listening to our residents about the drones and doing a drone policy revision, because they were concerned about security and about the fact that everybody wanted security to have access to drones in order that they could use them if somebody was lost in the village, to look at roof repairs, if there was a fire, things of that nature. But people did not feel comfortable allowing there to be external agents to be used in the village. And we were able to revise our policy, and thereafter GRF and United revised theirs. And now only VMS or their assignees may fly drones in the village. They need $1 million policy. And one of the things, when I kept on getting so many calls from residents, was all I could think of was somebody now in assisted living who owns their manor here and rents it out. And that person, that lessee, flying a drone and basically crashing it into a car windshield, and that person knocks over another woman, and all of a sudden, you know, there goes that whole person's financial plan. So I was really, that was something that I was thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Juanita first and then John.
This is an easy one for me. Our biggest achievement this year was revising and restating our bylaws, which were 47 years old. They were not in tune with our occupancy agreement. They were not in tune with our operating rules. They had outdated legal codes, and they still had us under HUD, which we haven't been forever. Well, not forever, 8 years. But all of these things that needed to be brought up to date made sure that we had all of our legal codes and civil codes in line with what is currently there. And we also tried to simplify them. We went from 60 pages down to 20 pages so that we had simpler language, and we cut out pages and pages of legalese that nobody wanted to write. So we've got lots of successes in United, but as far as I'm concerned, that's the biggest project that we got done this year.
Thank you. John?
One of our biggest successes, but I think it is our biggest success, is the fact that we did put solar on 12 buildings. There were 3-story buildings, and we got the project done in time to meet the net metering 1 deadline that was put out by Southern California Edison. Now, I don't know the number, but I think we saved somewhere about $250,000 on just this year on energy costs. The energy, by the way, does not go to the residents. It goes to the common area. It goes to the usage of the common area energy and placates that. And if you have any further comments on the details of that.
Okay, I want to add to it, because we had a lot of accomplishments this year, I think. One of the things that has been a real issue is compliance and being able to enforce it. So with our new security chief, Tim Moy, and the compliance department, we've been able to enforce compliance, and we are following through with it. In the past, there was no follow-through. People could have fines and they'd say, what the heck, you know, because nobody's going to come and collect it. Well, believe me, now they're going to come and collect it, so be aware. One of the things that I was involved in, and the other GRF and United were involved with, was the purchasing policy. And everybody knows that we needed to enhance our purchasing practices. So we formed a purchasing task force, and we have a policy that is being followed by GRF, United, and they're...
Thank you. Last, Manny?
Yes, although I wasn't on the board when this was approved, I think it was a very good step forward. And that's that the United Board also approved the installation of solar panels over some of the carports. I did get involved a little bit in a controversy about how that was disclosed in the financial statements, because you won't find it there. But anyway, that's beside the point. That was a good accomplishment. Another bit of information that I became aware of at the last presentation, where we had 30 United candidates at, was what a great contribution James Tung has done in promoting the use of recycled water. Now, I understand that there's only one use of that right now, but that is also on my agenda to look into for United, because I know that some excellent uses of recycled water would be all the common areas, the golf course, and I don't know if the golf course uses recycled water or not, but we have, hopefully it does. But this is an area we should look into and find out whether it would be cost effective, because it would, I'm sure, require a good investment on the part of United. So, thank you.
All right, Cash?
The main achievement, accomplishment is the bylaws and making sure that they're followed through, and we become more sensitive to issues to make our community stronger and cleaner for the best living of everybody. Also worth mentioning our waste sewer line, epoxy lining, etc., and our solar projects are worth mentioning here, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, the last question. Everybody answers. Okay, we'll start with Juanita. What is your board's greatest challenge?
I think the greatest challenge for all of us, and it sounds trite, but it's communication. We really try, but communication is a two-way street. We can put out information, and if nobody listens, reads, watches it, it doesn't do any good. We have tried so many, we're working with so many avenues, whether it's print, whether it's TV, whether it's town halls. There are so many different ways, the email blasts, the breeze, all of these are new ways that we have really been trying to get information out to all of our members. And it's so frustrating when you come to a meeting and they say, you snuck this in on us, we didn't know anything about it, why didn't you tell me? We can't go around to 6,324 units and say, can I come in and talk to you about what we're doing? It's the responsibility of the resident to get the information that's out there. It's the responsibility of the mutual to make sure that that it gets out there. And we will continue to do every avenue that we can to be as transparent and communicative as possible.
Okay, anyone else? Cash? Oh, everybody. Cash?
Yeah, I agree the main problem anywhere is communication. I come from a Gandhian era. I was born in Gandhi's ashram. I want to make sure that we have peace in the community and we make one strong, happy family. That's my goal. Major problem does persist has to be communication. Thank you.
Manny?
I believe the biggest challenge that all the boards face is the proper and wise and effective use of our money. I think that will always continue to be the biggest challenge we face. And we can talk about communication, we can talk about all these other things, but the boards are doing a tremendous job on communicating with the residents. That doesn't mean that the message will get across. But the use of our money, and again, I'll repeat it, $110 million flows through our community every single year through members' assessments. That's a lot of money to watch and to use wisely and get the best benefits to all of us as residents. That's the biggest challenge. Thank you.
John?
I'll have to admit that I do have a unique focus, but I believe our greatest challenges are improvements in our projects. We have projects looking at dry rot, parking, landscape issues, plumbing. We're coating the both the supply and the drainage lines. Solar, lights, energy. Our projects, I believe, are our greatest challenge, and we work darn hard to stay on top of them. We got some people on the board that really, really push hard. And then, of course, we've got Ernesto, who heads things up over in the MSI, and he's also registered as a civil engineer, and he's a great guy.
Bunny?
Well, I agree with Manny, and I agree with John. It is a challenge to be on the board because we have many responsibilities and many challenges. And at this point in time, our community is like 50 years old, so here we are trying to get our dry rot fixed and our pipes fixed and upgrade our technology, and things were just let go for so many years. So we want to be able to do all these projects, push these projects, and also manage the money properly so that it's not on the backs of our residents.
Annette?
I think for me, Third's focus should be on security compliance, protecting us by working closely with the general manager and the department heads to get things improved. Currently, we're working with staff to secure the early release of 2018 funds for the security gates. This is to ensure residents the security that they expect when they come to live here, to cut down on those folks using our amenities illegally. When all the gates are in place, it will reduce the violations of short-term rentals, illegal use of manners, and our amenities. I'm very much in favor of the new entrance system.
Okay, thank you. Back to Kathleen.
Thank you, Maggie. Thanks to all the candidates. I know this is a tough election year, and it might be in the bag for all 8 of you, but that doesn't mean that we're not watching. So we'll keep our eyes and ears open and hold you accountable. I thank all of you for coming. I thank Maggie for doing this evening, and Joan and many other people. Our timekeepers, oh my gosh. Marianne had to learn how to use her cell phone to be a timer, and Bob Hatch helped, and Aloha for refreshments, and Marcia for the front table. And I'm probably forgetting people, but I just want, oh, Lucy coordinated with Channel 6. So this is going to be rebroadcast on Channel 6, so we appreciate you coming. And again, it's one of our ways to help you communicate with your community. Thank you so much, and hope to see you next month when we'll be having another great program. Thank you.